welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, your go-to sports podcast featuring great content, conversation, and your occasional disagreement. Stick around to interact and ask questions. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports, located on the White Horse Pike in Hamilton, New Jersey. Showcase Sports for the elite player. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back once again with another episode of Sweet Tea here on the Sports Box. You guys are already blowing up the comments. That's absolutely fantastic. Real quick before we do our intros, I just want to say, if you guys have not yet, let me get the freaking banner up. Very professional. Make sure to leave a like and share the show if you would. Helps to spread our show through the Facebook algorithm. But Garth, we're fired up this weekend. Like I said last week, man, it's like we decided to come back after like 6 months off, right? And then it's like all hell absolutely breaks loose last week, and we got more absolute chaos this week. We're going to talk about Tennessee, troll it up about Tennessee and then their fine and all of that, and their scholarships getting revoked. We're also going to talk about the Northwestern situation, a little update on that. The ACC going to CW, definitely not what I was expecting. But obviously the main part of our show, we're going to do ACC predictions. So get excited for that if you're a fan of the ACC team. That's why I'm wearing a Duke hat. I'm not a Duke football fan. It's still all about these guys. But Garth, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, really fired up, man. Excited to be on here. Like you said, all hell has broken loose just in time for the return of our Sweet Tea show here on the Sports Box. Second week. Last week was kind of just a, hey, football is right around the corner. Let's get excited. Me and Noah are back. This week we're jumping into our ACC season predictions. Among other things, like you said, the drama continues. The excitement for college football continues. It's like they knew we were coming back. They're like, hey, guys, we got to spice up college football. Noah and Garth are going to be on the show talking. But yeah, really excited to get into it tonight. As you said, a lot of people already in the comment section. Noah repping the ACC tonight with the awesome Duke hat. Really excited to see that as well. But should be a good show in store tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a ton of comments coming in, so let's not waste any time. Obviously, got to start off with the good old Ric Flair. Woo! Because we are fired up. This is going to be a good show. We're going to be talking about the ACC tonight, which should be a lot of fun. Our good buddy Andrew coming in saying, "What up, losers?" What's up, Andrew? How you doing?
He actually will be on with us next week for the Pac-12.
Oh, you already talked to him about that?
For that? Yep.
Oh, hell yeah! I'd love to. We're gonna be fired up to have Andrew on next week. Talk some Pac-12 as well. Our good buddy Brad Mangold says, "What's up? What's up, Brad? How you doing?" Mikey Bradley, good old Mickey Mouse Bradley. Yep, saying, "What up, dorks? What's up, Mikey?" Andrew, keep in mind, Andrew is like a 50-year-old man, right? But stuff like this, the good old middle school humor, it still gets everybody. Another show where Noah won't rep the Allen jersey for me. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm just too lazy to dig it out, honestly. And plus, Josh Allen's a bum anyway. So, John Suggs, one of our biggest fans, coming in saying Allen has to win something for him to rep an Allen jersey. Well, John, if that's the case, maybe I'll be wearing one by 2030 at this rate. But Noah will have Miami winning just to piss us off. I hate Miami. So
fun fact, I have found out both from Noah himself and his uncle, Dr. CFB, Georgia fans are not exactly huge fans of Miami.
No, I can't. They're fans don't get me wrong. Like, I don't hate them as much as like Tennessee or Georgia Tech. But like the Miami fans, I do know they talk like they've won 6 straight national championships, gone 15-0 the past 5 seasons. They haven't won since 2001. In 2001, I was 2 years old. Now look what I look like. I look like I'm a freaking caveman. Like that's how long it's been. So back the pack, says Andrew. Mikey Bradley says their fans are like Cowboy fans. Weird how both usually like another. Yeah, but JD's the one I know. He's a Cowboys and Miami Hurricanes fan. God,
and it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, disappointment year after year for the past 20 to 30 years, that's for sure. But let's get right into it. Let's start with your work story of the week before we get into the awfully depressing. You work with a bunch of clowns, Garth. I'm still convinced you're secretly like on on a sitcom like Undercover Boss or something like that, and you guys don't even know it. But I saw one picture you sent yesterday. It was like the stinky guy, and it looked like he was laying down on the ground and like pretended to work, but he was actually asleep or something like that. What's been going on at the dealership lately?
Oh man, there's been all kinds of excitement in the world of Garth's workplace here this past week or so. Obviously, last week I got to tell the surprise birth of a child story. This week, probably there's a lot of stuff that went down. I think probably the best one though is like you said, the stinky guy just comes back from surprising everybody with the fact that he's having a child and is going to be out for the next few days. He comes back. You would think that he'd be like, "All right, I missed the last 5 or 6 days. I got a lot of work to get caught up on. I need to be like, go, 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 knocking stuff out, doing a good job." Instead, we found him laying on the pavement in the middle of summer in Florida. So keep in mind it's like 90 some degrees, not exactly cool and breezy outside. Pretending to look at an engine or do something with an engine. Keep in mind this guy isn't working on engines, replacing parts on engines. He would just be moving one from like one spot to another if somebody needed it or like if he had to send it back. And instead he was just laying there with the plumber's crack going. Everybody could see the good old plumber's crack. And just laying there because he must have been tired and wanted to lay down, I guess, and make it look like he was doing some work in the process.
Yeah, I can't find the Garth actually sent a picture of it. I'm trying to find it in our chat, but I'm not having any luck finding it. But yeah, I mean, it's literally like he says. You can literally see the plumber's crack. The guy's shirt was scrunched up or whatever, and he's just laying there on the sidewalk next to some machinery and what have you, and he's just just snoring away when he's now. Okay, Garth, you said you guys switch from hourly to commission based. So is he getting paid for sleeping or no?
No. Actually. So he doesn't have any like nothing to do with the selling of anything.
Right.
So he actually is regular hourly. So technically, yeah, he would be getting paid to lay there and sleep.
Well, hang on, guys. This guy is getting paid hourly to do this. Oh my god, man!
Please notice the truckload full of garbage instead of being in the dumpsters is just sitting there for like the third day in a row.
Hey, make sure to call 407-287-4433 for whatever reason. For parts, I guess, from Chrysler. Oh my god, dude. It's like Sean left and like somehow your workplace became even more batshit crazy than it already was.
He was a balancing force. We've come to the conclusion that he did so much on his own that it kept other people from also doing crazy stuff on a regular basis. Now that he's gone, it has spread to the whole dealership where there's like multiple people doing crazy things on the regular.
Dude, I just realized. Imagine if you've never seen our show at all, and you're coming in expecting, oh yeah, let's hear about some college football talk, and you come in and you see this on the screen. Why am I just now seeing this epic picture? Because Garth just sent it to me, so I was able to quickly save it and upload it. Heard Garth's work banned forklifts. Hang on, John. Yeah, this is what happens.
If anything, they're more widely used than ever before.
This is what happens when you get a runaway forklift driver. You fuck up the door and it's not fixed for 4 months, and it looks like that. JD Corsi, aka Mr. Biased. All right, let's get into the serious mode because we have some very serious topics to talk about. Unfortunately, not like good serious, very bad serious. Pat Fitzgerald. Now we talked about this last week, Garth. This whole hazing scandal. And you know what's weird, right? When we talked about it on a Friday, there was like literally no information like about it. It was just like, oh, we're just guessing. We don't really know the details. There was an investigation, but we don't know really anything about what they found. They just put out a general vague statement, and Pat Fitzgerald got that 2-week suspension, and we thought that was kind of dumb. And then Saturday came, and like it was like some guy from InfoLeaks had just like leaked half of the data because all of a sudden it was like, there's accounts coming out everywhere, and then a few days later, Pat Fitzgerald gets fired, and then the baseball coach gets fired for something as well. And in the span of like a week and a half, Northwestern went from a team that, was obviously not very good. They've been terrible for quite a few years, but, pretty stable. Pat Fitzgerald's job security, I'd say, was pretty good. And not today. They're in an absolute chaotic state. I'm going to start putting up some of these quotes. I'm not going to read them out because they're just kind of pretty much standard PR statements from this. Now, this Michael Schill guy, a university president. Now, I got to say, Garth, I can't think of a better name for a president trying to commit damage control for a situation like this than a guy named Michael Schill, because clearly he is a shill, because I don't understand, right? This is one thing I don't get. Like, okay, if you want to fire Pat Fitzgerald, I get it. You can't have stuff like this happening on your watch. And by the way, just to clarify before we get into talking about this, we're not going to mention specifically what has been mentioned is happening. It's very serious. It's sexual assault. If you want to look up what they're specifically citing, the articles are all over ESPN. But we're not going to go into specifics here. We're going to just talk about general thoughts on this whole stuff. But yeah, there's one PR statement from Michael Schill. I'll put up another one, or this is about the firing actually. Garth, this is a complete mess. I mean, obviously, this is a very serious scenario. There's not a lot positive to take away from this. Now, you and I have talked about this quite a lot over the past week, about whether or not Pat Fitzgerald knew about it. In my opinion, and I think you'll agree with me, I don't think it really matters how much he knew about it. I think it's the fact that he should have known about it. And I think that's where this reversal, if you will, came from Northwestern, right? I think the reason that they suspended him in the first place, their logic was the fact, it says it right there actually at the bottom, that they did not find sufficient evidence that the coaching staff knew about ongoing hazing. I think what happened is this Michael Schill guy, and we're going to see a quote actually later where he basically says a lot of people were contacting about it. And he was being, very polite about it, but I think he was getting a ton of angry emails from, former players, parents of these athletes, maybe even athletes themselves, journalists, what have you, saying, what the hell are you doing? Like something as serious as this, and you just basically give the coach a slap on the wrist. He's suspended for 2 weeks in the off season before training camp even comes in. He gets to come back. And I think they kind of reversed it to say, okay, we can't argue keeping him because he didn't know about it. We have to fire him because he should have known about it, and it's his fault that he didn't. Like it says there, they reversed course. So just what are some general thoughts that you have about how this thing evolved from a case of us not really knowing what was going on, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's some really screwed up shit coming out about this?
Yes, I think probably mostly, the first thing that needs to be mentioned, because much like myself at first, before I took the time to kind of really research this and take a deep dive into it, to most people watching this, seeing the articles, the headlines, whatever, it probably seems really, really just like out of left field, like all of a sudden, if you will. But the reality is that they actually did a full-fledged investigation. They hired somebody outside of the university, to try to be unbiased, an outside source, doesn't really know anybody involved. And they went through the whole investigation process. It said they reviewed like thousands upon thousands of articles and pieces of evidence. They sat down, with pretty much everybody on the roster, a bunch of former players, the entire coaching staff, what be it. So it seems like they really, really took their time and didn't just, go off of, hey, this guy said that or that guy said that. Like they really did it right from what I saw anyways. And basically the result of the investigation was that, hey, we have no way of knowing for sure if Pat Fitzgerald knew about this because it's kind of hard to prove something like that regardless. But what they did find is there absolutely was hazing that went on. Just to me, reading the statements, it was bad. Like this was some really, really bad stuff that went down. Like you said, Noah, it definitely was sexual assault. So that went on, was what the investigation concluded. Whether or not Pat Fitzgerald actually knew about it, heard about it, whatever, that's still up in the air. Nobody really knows. But like you said, the fact that he was the head football coach and it's his job to not only coach the players to be better players and people off the field, but to protect his players and to make sure that this kind of stuff is not happening to them. And when it goes on for a sustained period of time to this severity, it's like, hey, we have no other option but to fire this guy. And I think that that's really why he got fired. We could go on and on about whether or not he knew about it, whatever. But I think that, it sucks because a lot of people really liked him. But at the same time, I think ultimately it was the right decision, because if they had just kept him, the backlash would be unreal. Like, nobody would be able to take the program seriously. There wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to have positive change and kind of correct all the stuff that's happened there. So I think that they had to do this, and it was most likely the best way they could have handled it. Obviously the whole 2-week suspension thing at first probably was not the best way, but at least they fixed it and got rid of him. It's just crazy. It's crazy that this stuff is still going on in this day and age, but unfortunately it is.
John says the baseball coach was under fire before the football head coach. Yeah, Jim Foster. I haven't done a lot of research on this because, this is a college football show. Obviously, I don't really keep up with college baseball. But he was fired Thursday after allegations of bullying. Now, once again, I haven't researched that. I don't know exactly what they mean by bullying. But, 2 coaches fired in the span of just a couple days. Here's a quote from Michael Shogart that I think kind of goes into what you were just talking about reversing course, whatnot. Let me get up real quick. It says, this decision comes after a difficult and complex evaluation of my original discipline decision imposed last week on Coach Fitzgerald for his failure to know and prevent significant hazing in the football program. Over the last 72 hours, and this is what I was talking about the backlash, I've spent a great deal of time in thought and in discussions with people who love our university, the chair and members of our board of trustees, faculty, leadership, students, alumni, and Coach Fitzgerald himself. I've also received many phone calls, text messages, and emails from those I know and those I don't, sharing their thoughts. While I'm appreciative of the feedback and consider it in my decision making, ultimately the decision that originally to suspend Coach Fitzgerald was mine and mine alone, as is the decision to part ways with him. Now, that part about it being his decision alone, I say bullshit, because you just literally spent 5 minutes talking about how everyone's blowing up your phone, blowing up your emails. Says they're giving feedback. They're probably telling them, what the fuck are you doing, you clown? Why did you just suspend this guy for 2 weeks? So look, this is like the I hate to bring this up, but this is kind of like the Joe Paterno thing with Jerry Sandusky, to where whether or not Joe Paterno knew about it, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. If you're the head coach of a program, you oversee basically everything. How can you not know about something like this? And if you don't know about it, then you're doing something wrong. You need to be aware of everything going on in your program. This is kind of like, Garth, if you're the boss of a major company, right, and you hire a guy and he commits a crime while under your employment, and maybe he has something on his background that you didn't check or whatnot. Yes, personal responsibility. Obviously, the main person at fault is the guy that commits the crime. But when you're the boss, you're also supposed to be in charge of that. You're supposed to realize something like that. And if you hire something that does something bad, whether it's fair or not isn't really the point. The fact is it comes back up top. And that's why I think this Michael Schill guy and all the other leadership positions at Northwestern are pretty lucky, because they get dependent on Pat Fitzgerald. They can fire him. But who was it who hired Pat Fitzgerald? Who was it that was turning a blind eye to this? Like, I don't understand how something like this, it was like 2 weeks ago, pretty much nobody knew about this except maybe those investigating, and now it's just like come out and it's like, what the hell was going on all this time? I think it's really difficult, right? But I do think they made the right decision to fire him, whether he knew it or not. I will say this though, there is something that I noticed, and maybe this is just me being very cynical, but I did see a quote from, obviously all these players are anonymous, right? But you have some guys coming out with their accounts or whatnot. But I've seen other anonymous players come out and say, like, you know what, these things are very overblown. This never happened, whatnot. And my reaction to that is, okay, they could just be ignorant, but the cynical, kind of conspiracy theorist guy in me was thinking, are they part of a cover-up? Are they trying to cover this up? You know what I mean? Now, obviously, I have no proof of that. I'm not directly accusing anyone of doing that, but it's weird, right? Like, with how detailed I've heard some of these descriptions of what's going on, like, how could you not know about this? How could this be overstated? You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. Regardless, he leaves Northwestern with a 110-101 record. Obviously, the most successful coach they've ever had by far. He's even in the College Football Hall of Fame, was inducted in 2018. DC David Braun is taking over as interim head coach. Unfortunately for Mr. Braun, I don't even think it matters if they had Don Shula coaching the team. I think they'll be lucky to win 3 games next year. But the main question, Garth, where do they go from here? Because it's not impossible to come back from something like this, but it's going to take a while, I think. This is not something that you can just sweep under the rug. This is not something that people are going to easily forgive. Sexual assault is one of the worst things you can do to a human being, and the fact that this was so rampant, apparently, from what I've read, what do you think Northwestern could do to salvage this? Because it's kind of weird that they fire Fitzgerald, right? But the rest of the assistant coaching staff is there. They just said today they're not firing anyone else. Like what the hell's going on? What do you think about? What do they do from here?
Yeah, it is really weird that they just took out Pat Fitzgerald and the rest of the staff is there. The defensive coordinator is going to be the interim head coach. I think probably ultimately what's going to end up happening, Noah, is they're going to hire somebody outside of the program to be the new head football coach, and that guy will basically clean house and get rid of all those guys that he doesn't really know, that he hasn't worked with, and bring in, their own group of guys to be the new staff there. But it's going to be massive turnover. A lot of these players are going to be transferring out. It's going to be a brand new coaching staff. I don't know if it'll happen, very quickly. It probably won't be until the off season or close to the end of the regular season before anything really happens as far as a new coach and a new staff. It's really weird that they only fired one guy when it, probably should have been the whole staff, and they probably had enough time to get somebody in there. But I think what mainly we're seeing here is kind of this trend that we've been seeing for a few years now with, and even just recently, honestly, not even so much just the past few years, but just the past, year or so, where universities are going, hey, like, if we have something that happens here that shouldn't have happened, whether it be something like this with the hazing, Tennessee with the recruitment violations that we'll talk about a little bit later on, LSU just recently with the guy who played for 4 years completely ineligible because his family members were embezzling money from a children's hospital of all things. What I'm seeing at least is a trend that university is like, hey, if we kind of like show we're being stern about this, we're cracking down, we're punishing ourselves. It'll keep the NCAA from just coming down and absolutely laying the hammer down on us and, like giving us a multiple year postseason ban, taking away a bunch of scholarships, all that kind of thing. But it's still weird that they kept the staff. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I guess I think they're really, really going heavily with the fact that, yes, it went on and we're ashamed that it went on and we're doing our best to prevent it from ever happening again, but we don't think that the staff knew about it. And the fact that they fired Pat Fitzgerald was probably just out of backlash, quite frankly. Like you said, no, probably a lot of angry emails, phone calls, letters, what be it, were coming in. And he's like, hey, to get this to stop, I got to fire somebody. And the guy who makes the most sense is the guy who's in charge of the whole thing, and Pat Fitzgerald.
More comments coming in. John says, Fitzgerald's been there since 2006, only 8 barely winning seasons. That's true, but you got to remember he's coaching at Northwestern. An above 500 record at Northwestern is like a 10-win season for most schools. Wonder if they actually had more winning seasons if this would have surfaced. I'm sure bullying happens at every school. You don't think it doesn't happen at Florida or UGA. Well, John, this is not normal bullying we're talking about. Like, this isn't some kid getting stuffed in a locker or being given a wedgie. You're talking about sexual assault, which is very serious crime. So, yeah, I don't know if it would have surfaced. I mean, maybe, maybe it would have been more like to be kept under wraps if he was a national championship winning coach or whatever, if he is at a bigger school or whatnot. But I do think Garth makes a good point. I think if it was an NCAA investigation, there would be no 2-week suspension bullshit like what happened last week. Like, I definitely think it would have been harsher from the get-go. I don't know. I haven't researched if the NCAA is going to launch an official investigation into this. I assume they might, even though Fitzgerald already did get fired. We'll see what happens there. Jennifer Kate says, "How's it going, guys?" What's up, Jen?
What's up, Jen?
Garrett says, "What the frick is on Noah's head?" Hey, Garrett, I'm not a Duke fan, okay? It's just a ACC prediction show. I had a Duke hat. I like the Duke hat.
Garrett's
I
a
like.
big fan of Duke.
Yeah, he absolutely loves Duke, man. Big Duke fan. He's got a Christian Laettner jersey signed in his basement and everything. They're doing ACC predictions today. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. To help their image is the hire Ed Reed. We all remember him talking about that school he was coaching for, troubles in the program, terrible mistake they made. That's not what F stands for. That's true. I didn't even notice that when I said it, but
Hey, we're trying not to get fired like Pat Fitzgerald.
yeah, I don't want to get fired. Not that the sports box cares about cursing, but whatever. Now, let's move on to something a little less terrible and something that we can actually laugh at about, and that's good old Tennessee, Garth. Tennessee Volunteers at it again, absolute clown show. They give up 63 points to South Carolina last year. They can't even win with all their great recruits. And now they're getting in trouble for stuff that they did under their previous coach, not even Josh Heupel. Good old Jeremy Pruitt with the McDonald's bags full of money given to recruits and whatnot. 5-year probation sentence for Tennessee. Now, I will say they were lucky to not get a bowl ban, so they will be eligible for the Pop-Tart Bowl this year when they go 7-5. But $8 million fine, which is actually closer to $9 million after you add in more penalties, Garth. A reduction of 28 scholarships. Now, I was reading about this. It's not like 28 scholarships from now. It's like they've already been reduced by 16 or 18 or whatever. So there's going to be like 10 more reductions over the next 5 years. That will not be good for them, obviously. You need as many scholarships as you can when you're in a league as competitive as college football. And the NCAA estimated that this fine was essentially equivalent to, let me put the quote up here, it's equivalent to the financial impact a school would face for missing the college football playoffs in both the 2023 and 2024 seasons. It is a hefty fine. I will say that. I was, kind of hoping it would be a severe punishment because obviously I freaking hate Tennessee. Like, their fans are like the worst people on the planet. And plus, I live near Tennessee, so there's like 28 million of them around where I live. So hopefully they're crying themselves to sleep tonight. But they were lucky to avoid the bowl ban, but still very harsh punishments. They also have to vacate wins and records in any games in which the 16 individual sanctioned players participated. They haven't announced the game specifically, and none of these games apply to games that Josh Heupel's coached. These are all games from the 3 years that Mr. Jeremy Pruitt coached. Other penalties, I'm not going to read them out specifically. It's all about visits and stuff. But Garth, good old Tennessee, man, and their McDonald's bags. Here's the thing, right? If you want to cheat, like if you want to pay prospects, because let's be honest, right? Tennessee is not the only school to ever do this. But Tennessee is so stupid that they do it and get caught. Like, if you want to cheat, you got to do it right. You got to do it secretly, and you got to get good players in. Tennessee was cheating, and not only did they get caught, they didn't even get good players in because they did not win anything under Jeremy Pruitt. They were absolute garbage. They have improved, under Josh Heupel. But even then, I mean, they still give up 63 points to South Carolina. They lost their quarterback. They lost their top receiver, and their defense still can't defend a nosebleed. So how do you think this affects Tennessee going forward the next few years?
Yeah, so like you said, they lucked out, obviously, that they didn't get a bowl ban, so they will be eligible for postseason play. I think really the main thing behind that, Noah, is like you mentioned a few times, it was under Jeremy Pruitt, not Josh Heupel. Mm-hmm. He had nothing to do with any of the things that went down and that they got punished for. So I think that was a little bit of leeway and mercy, like, hey, that guy's gone. They've got a new guy in who seems to be running the program well and wanting to do a good job there at Tennessee. So we're not going to just like completely lay the hammer down on him. But things definitely won't be a whole lot easy for him because they are losing all the scholarships, which for anybody who doesn't know, you don't just get unlimited scholarships as a sports program. Mm-hmm. You are limited to a certain amount. So losing 26 from that total is a huge loss. It physically limits how many players. The best way to put it, Noah, is like, say you're an NFL team and all of a sudden you get punished for whatever you did, and the commissioner says, all right, you can no longer you have to reduce your roster size by 26 players. This is literally pretty much the same thing because, you can still have walk-on players to fill the positions, but obviously the difference between a full scholarship player that you go out and recruit hard and want to play on your team and just kind of a walk-on filler type of player is, night and day difference. And granted, that guy's just going to be on the sideline warming the old bench up, not out there like making a huge difference for your team. So that's really going to hurt them. The official visits thing, that's really, they can't host recruits as much as they'd like. They'll still be able to bring them in. And then, too, the other thing that I did want to mention, Noah, is unless everybody was kind of not really paying attention to the situation, never heard anything about it. This is not like a out of left field all of a sudden thing like the Northwestern was. This is something that we found out about quite a while ago now, actually. We were just waiting for the NCAA to finish their investigation and make it public what the punishment was going to be. Actually, last year, this was getting a lot of talk and hype around it because people were wondering, hey, Tennessee's having a really, really good year, but this investigation's pending. It seems like they're close to their decision. They could hit them with that bowl ban, and then all of a sudden this good season is absolutely meaningless because they can't even play in a bowl game. Lucky for them, it did get staved off until this off season. So they lucked out in that front. They lucked out that they didn't get a bowl game ban. And Mr. Pruitt probably won't get a job anytime soon because I was reading that if he were to get hired, he would be suspended for an entire year.
Yep.
So basically you're hiring a guy to be your head coach, but at the same time, he can't really for a whole entire season. Tennessee definitely got punished very hard. They didn't just get like a slap on the wrist or anything, but at the same time, they did luck out with the no bowl game ban. Like you said, no, they cheated. They didn't help them. They still flat out sucked. And they did it in a very, very stupid manner, literally handing recruits McDonald's bags full of money like, hey, choose us and you can expect more of this. So typical, in the words of Noah Diebler, typical Tennessee L here.
You have common Tennessee L, especially Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, I don't think it was just him either. I think I was reading that it was actually him and his wife both doing it, giving money to recruits, and they weren't even sneaky about it. Once again, I'm not saying Tennessee's not the only team that have done this in the past. We all know that. Any common sense knows that you got to do anything you can to compete in the NCAA, but you got to be discreet about it. And if you're gonna cheat, win some friggin' games. They were 16-19 under Jeremy Pruitt, and he got fired because of this. They had one decent season, I remember. After that, they just completely fell off a cliff. Now, I will say Josh Heupel, I think, has done a great job the past 2 years. I think he's a very good coach. He's not as good as Kirby Smart, though. SEC Coach of the Year, back-to-back. Hang on, where is it? No, this is the wrong side of the cup. There it is. Back-to-back champions.
Now the viewers will be fired up.
Yep. But, good coach. John says means Heupel will fulfill his contract regardless of the record he has signed until 2028, 5 years. I mean, he's not going anywhere for a long time if he keeps winning at the rates he is. I do think Tennessee could take a step back next year because I think South Carolina is good. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I think Florida will improve. So Garth can get his pom-poms out and celebrate me saying something unbiased about Florida. But and plus their defense is terrible.
Josh should know very well as he lives right in the heartland of Tennessee volunteer country.
He does. I feel bad for him, man. Look, one thing all we Georgia and Florida fans can agree on is Tennessee fans are some of the biggest idiots I have ever met in my life. And they're annoying. I remember that season where they had Josh Dobbs back in, I want to say it was 2016, and they were really good. But, man, they talked so much shit about teams like UGA and whatnot. It was like every time we lost, they're kind of like Georgia Tech fans. Every time we lose, these teams have so little to celebrate most years that as soon as UGA loses, they're like, oh, yeah, UGA won. It's like they're celebrating their own team winning because they can't celebrate their team doing good. They have to celebrate teams they hate doing bad.
Also, fun fact, the only fan base in America that throws mustard bottles onto the field.
friggin' ridiculous. Well, they may throw mustard bottles on the field, but it's going to take them quite a while to catch up to UGA in the next few years. That was pretty bad. I'm not even going to lie. Moving on. The ACC. Now we're going to talk about predictions the ACC in a bit. I'm not going to lie, Garth. I think the ACC took a massive L with this. We're going to talk about them signing with the CW. I was not expecting this, but the CW has secured the rights to 50 ACC games beginning September 9th when Pitt plays Cincinnati. 13 ACC football games will air Saturdays on the CW. There's also stuff about men's basketball doubleheaders and women's basketball doubleheaders, but let's be honest, no one cares about that. We're here about the college football part. And ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said this: "We are thrilled to be adding the CW to our weekly television lineup for ACC football and basketball games. The CW's national distribution will directly benefit our student athletes, teams, alumni, and fans. We appreciate ESPN and Raycom working together and looking forward to the partnership with the CW." Obviously, this comes from basically the ACC complaining about the fact they make so little money compared to the two big boy conferences in college football, the SEC and the Big Ten. I will say they do make more than Andrew's poverty conference, the Pac-12. But 20-year media rights agreement that they signed with ESPN back in 2015, 2016. They want to try and get out of that, be able to make more money, but it's tough, Gart. Do you think this is the right solution for the ACC signing this deal with the CW network?
I'm gonna be honest. This is like a massive fail in my opinion. Like really, the CW? Like I was actually in shock when I heard this. No, like out of all the things I could have expected, the CW really? Like I'm not even trying to be negative or hate on the CW, but like, okay, so here's a perfect example, right? So
Right.
I've lived here in Florida now for just hit the 4-year mark. I don't even think we have the CW down here. And before I moved here, growing up in upstate New York, the CW was like that channel where nothing's on TV and you're flipping through channels. You hit CW and they're playing like really old reruns of some random show that was popular for like 6 months. So I don't see how did the CW even secure these rights? Like, how did the ACC go, you know what? Absolutely, let's get this deal done. This is going to be a blockbuster. And then two, the other thing for me, Noah, is like, how could they not do better? I get it. Like, football is not really what it's been for the ACC in recent years. Like, teams like Miami and Florida State have been down for quite a while now. Obviously, Florida State improved a lot last year, but just over the past like 5 or 6 seasons, they haven't been what they've been. It's kind of really just been carried by the success of Clemson, really. And not only that, like, I think obviously this is a college football show and we talk college football here, but the TV rights is for the conference as a whole. And, you know, as much flack as we give the conference for football, in basketball, they're arguably the best conference in the whole country, and they've been that way for quite a while. So it's like, how could you not do better than this? I don't know. I'm kind of baffled, quite frankly, man. I don't get it. I don't see how this is going to be good for viewership and revenue because, like I said, down here in the South, I feel like I don't even get that channel. Or, you know, if I can, I might have to pay extra. And whereas CBS, you know, everybody has CBS across the country. ESPN, everybody has ESPN. The ESPN app, obviously, ABC as well being a part of that. Everybody has ABC. Even, you know, like we mentioned it, NBC Sports with hockey. I would think a lot more people would have easy access to NBC over something like the CW. I don't get it, man. I wish I could say something positive, but at this point in time, I just can't.
Look, I will say this. I have watched CW. When I did have cable, now it's just all about streaming, but when I did have cable, CW was channel, I want to say 69 or something like that. So it is a channel I've known pretty well. It's the channel that shows like Supernatural, Arrow, The Flash, stuff like that. All the DC Universe shows kind of, that's pretty much what the CW is most known for. Smallville back in the day. It's not something I would associate with sports. Like I've never once thought about the CW and be like, man.
I think that's a really good point, Noah. Like ESPN, ABC, NBC, all that kind of stuff. Fox, even, when you hear the TNT with NBA, like you're like, okay, like these guys have sports programming regularly on their networks.
Even USA, Garth, like USA every now and then does some sports broadcasts. They do some golf. They do some hockey here and there. Never once thought about CW and thought, man, I would love to have some sports on there. That's where I want to watch my sports. And I think that's what it comes down to. Now, let's get through some of these comments. Andrew did not like the Pac-12 comment. I'm sorry, Andrew. Jacob says, go Buckeyes.
Thanks, Jacob.
John says, the longest running television relationship in college sports belongs to ACC and Raycom Sports. Now the CW brings national broadcast network coverage to the great fans of these 15 famous schools. Here's the thing, from what I understand, they didn't sign with the CW. ESPN subleased the games to CW. I'm going to get in that in a minute because I have a tweet that kind of, I think it spans on it. Most people that live, for example, in my state, what state do you live in, John? Because I live in Georgia and we did get the CW, but Gar lives in Florida and he says he doesn't. Most people that live, for example, in my state, CW is on every TV program. Some people don't want to pay the ACC network or ESPN. The CW acquired the rights to North Carolina, gotcha. Acquired the rights to these live ACC football and basketball games from Raycom Sports, who sublicenses the rights from ESPN. The CW, which is 75% owned by Nexstar, acquired the rights to these live ACC football and basketball games from Raycom Sports, which is owned by Nexstar. Man, John, you're just making our job so easy, giving us all this information that we're too lazy to research. But yeah, I got Andrew, going back to your comment, I got a tweet here from Brett McMurphy, who's kind of like one of the big college football insider guys. Now, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but it says exclusive broadcast rights to the CW for these 50 games. I don't know what exclusive means here.
So here's the thing, too, that I just kind of thought about. Mm-hmm. If this really is the case where it's kind of ESPN technically has the rights, but they're leasing them out to another network. If you guys have not been following along, and this is kind of like my financial addict side of myself chiming in more so than my sports fanatic side, ESPN, which is majority owned by Disney, yes, as you guys know, have been having a lot of layoffs to some of either your not favorite or favorite sports broadcasters in efforts to cut back on spending and budget. It could very well be that ESPN/Disney is saying, hey, guys, if we lease the rights out, we don't have to pay our own people to cover these games because the CW's people are going to do it and they're going to have to foot the bill. But also we're still getting money back because the CW is having to pay us for these rights. So I definitely could see that, Noah.
And look, whether, you can get to the semantics or whatever, what exactly the CW deal entails. Fact of the matter is, in my opinion, this does not move the needle for the ACC. If they're complaining that they don't make as much money as the SEC and Big Ten, look, the Big Ten just signed an 8-year, I think 7 or 8 years, $8 billion contract with, companies like Fox, NBC, and I think CBS to sublicense their or broadcast their biggest games. The SEC just signed a 10-year deal that I think starts next year, so not this year, but 2024, with ESPN. They're already making more money than you, and I think that gap is going to increase. I don't think the CW moves the needle here, Garth. Like, the SEC and the Big Ten just make so much money, like so much more than the other 3 Power 5 conferences. Like, it's not even funny. They're the big money makers, and I don't think the CW is really. If the ACC is complaining about the amount of revenue that they make, I don't think this moves the needle. I think the SEC and the Big 12 or the Big 10, have been very aggressive with their TV deals. Yeah, I got the. Let me look up the specifics actually on this Big 10 TV deal because it's kind of slipping my mind. 7-year, $7 billion TV deal signed in August 2022. That's going to go into effect soon. Like, that's just so much money. And like the ACC is already far behind. Now, it's not the poorest Power 5 conference. That goes to the good old Pac-12.
Pac-12.
But look, here's the thing,
think
right?
about this, though, right?
Yeah.
So SEC, we love to rub it in as fans of SEC teams, but, completely unbiased speaking, just looking at this with a neutral scope, SEC has been the best conference in college football for quite a few years now. All you have to do is look at how competitive they've been in the playoffs, in the bowl games as well, and obviously winning national titles too. but quite frankly, they bring in the most money. I don't know it for certain, but I would have to guess that they probably have the largest total ticket sales as a conference as well.
With the SEC,
They
yeah.
they go from CBS to ESPN, and also a part of that is ABC as well. Um, so they, went from a really good situation to an
Mhm.
even better situation. Whereas, I think no matter how you look at this, like how you want to word it, it's technically ESPN, but it's not at the same time. I think the ACC went from like a decent TV deal to, downgrading a little bit. Even if it's not by much, they definitely didn't get better in the situation. And, that's why it really doesn't make sense to me. You see conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC pushing really, really aggressively to get bigger and better TV deals. The ACC is kind of, at least most people would think kind of like that one conference that isn't on that same level but would like to get there, especially with football specifically. And I don't think that this is a move that helps them get there.
By the way, CW signed a deal for LIV Golf this year in January. Yeah, good old golf.
Good old golf.
One of the most boring sports I've ever watched in my life. Look at that beautiful shirt on Mr. Noah. Thank you, Josh. Yes, sir. I also got the not that I've already shown this or anything, but the back-to-back Champions Cup 65-7 TCU January 9th, 2023 Cup with my ice water in it. But ACC in July 2016 signed a 20-year media rights pact with ESPN through 35-36. Yeah, I think one of the banners mentioned that actually. Where did it go? Where the hell did it go? Was it? Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, it's in that banner right there. Hey, Andrew, what's your thought on your side team, San Diego State, getting road?
This was kind of one of the main topics of last week's show, actually.
You stop that. Now I'm offended. Golf don't suck anymore. Oh yeah, Josh is a big golf fan. He loves.
I mean, I am
golf.
too, no, but here's the thing. Like,
Mhm.
at least this day and age of golf, you're not watching unless Tiger Woods is involved. And secondly, it's one of those sports that's way, way more enjoyable to actually play it yourself than to sit down and watch it on TV.
Golf sucks. I would rather watch NASCAR for 3.5 hours. At least there's a possibility of a big crash. And you know how I feel about NASCAR. But Garth, you ain't keeping count 3 times down for.
He must have been present for that show where I actually kept the
You
tracker.
did. You kept the counter. Well, here you go, John. You can add one more to the counter. Back-to-back champs, like you said, right there. There it is. But I understand why people call it boring, especially if you've never played. Yeah, I think it's one of those games. It's more fun to play in person. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe this thing will work out for me. I just don't think it's going to move the needle. Like you said, the SEC and Big Ten were already doing well. The Big Ten, all those nice Fox games, those noon games with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt that I always love to watch. The SEC games. Now, I will say the one thing I didn't like about the CBS SEC games was when like the best matchup of the week was at like
Yeah.
3:30 or 4. Like I'd
Yeah,
rather.
I voiced my frustrations on that a lot on
Yeah.
here, Noah.
And
Basically, the CBS deal, they got to pick whatever game they wanted, which obviously, if you have your pick of it, you're going to pick the best game. It makes the most sense. And it got, locked into that 3:30 slot versus being like a night primetime game.
And I will say I understand why they did it, like that 8 o'clock ABC game and all that. But with the ESPN deal, I just think it gives the SEC so much more flexibility to just kind of do whatever they want, pretty much. Obviously, CBS is no minor network, but like ESPN is like the king of like sports broadcast. And like if you want to watch college football games, that's one of the best places you can go. They have some really good coverage. But yeah, speaking of the SEC, the main part of the show. We're already 52 minutes in, so let's get this going. ACC predictions. We're not going to go as in depth as we have with some of our prediction shows in the past, where we do. This team's going to finish 5th in their division. By the way, no divisions in the ACC this year. First year since 2005. That's going to be very interesting. But yeah, we're not going to be like this team is finishing 12th this year with a 4-8 record, and they will win these. We're not doing that. We're just going to do general predictions. Who do we think will be the top 2 in the conference? And stuff like that. We'll start with an easy one, or at least there's pretty easy contenders for this one, I think. I'll go first on this. ACC Player of the Year. I think there's very, very good candidates this year. I think there's 3 that really stand out to me, and that's Jordan Travis out of Florida State, Drake May out of North Carolina, and Will Shipley out of Clemson. I think Cade Klubnik, if he has a really good year coming in for them, could do it as well. Because let's be honest, I think Clemson still has a very good team. They just were held back by terrible quarterback play the last year. I mean, poor DJ. Nothing against him, but my God, you could tell the guy was in over his head. We'll see what he does for Oregon State this year. But to be honest, this is a tough one. I'm leaning between Jordan Travis and Drake May. Honestly, I'm probably going to go with Jordan Travis. I think if he takes another step this year, you have to remember, Jordan Travis has more experience. He took a big step last year. He was not great in 2021, but he skyrocketed in 2022. I think if he takes that next step, he could not only win ACC Player of the Year, I think he'd be potentially a Heisman candidate. I'm not saying he's going to be a finalist or win it or whatever, but I think if he has a really good season, throws like 35 touchdowns, Florida State has another really good double-digit win season, I think he could easily win ACC Player of the Year. But I think it's going to be a dead heat. And I will say this. I have a man crush on Drake May. That guy's best football is still yet to come, and we already saw what he did last year, which was absolutely insane. But just for this season, I'm going to give the slightest edge to Jordan Travis for this one.
Yeah, so real quick, though, before I get into my thoughts, going to run an ad here real quick. We'll be right back with you. I got a lot to say on this. Honestly, I'm really excited for this specific topic in the ACC, but we'll be right back, guys. All right. So first and foremost, Noah, I think that I have to agree with your top 3, Jordan Travis, Drake May, and Will Shipley. I do think that Cade Klubnik has a chance to put himself into that conversation by the end of the season. The thing for me, Noah, is he's kind of, I don't really want to say unproven, but definitely inexperienced, because last year they wanted to kind of hang on to DJ as long as possible, and then they finally gave him the shot towards the end of the season, and he looked really, really well. So I'll have to see if that kind of carries over. I hope it does, because I'm a big fan of his. I think it's good for college football when Clemson is very competitive and can make CFPs and compete with some of these other SEC and Big Ten schools, just for kind of like a change of pace, if you will. And Will Shipley is a beast. He's like that prototypical Clemson player who's really, really good. Kind of flies under the radar a little bit, like Hunter Renfrow did for them. But he definitely could be in it by the end of the season. They're probably going to rely on him a lot. But for me personally, no, I think it really comes down to Jordan Travis and Drake May. I think Drake May is probably like the better NFL prospect, the more polished passer, if you will, out of the two. But I think Jordan Travis has some intangibles. Like, he's the more experienced guy. I think he's really, really hungry to kind of conclude his college career on a high note, because he started off really, really rough. Like, they did not have a good team around him. Brand new system. Mike Norvell was just coming in. He improved the second year, but still, you know, the team wasn't that good around him. They do really good in the transfer portal. I wouldn't say they do really great recruiting, but they do, you know, a solid job. They bring in some good players. He really took a big step forward last year, and he's a really athletic kid. Like, he can extend plays with his legs. He was really, really efficient, actually the best in the entire country per PFF in down the field throws of over, I think it was like 30 or 40 yards, whatever, deep balls. And he also led the nation in turnover worthy plays, you know, like the least likely to create a turnover. And he can extend plays with his legs, run really, really well. I think the biggest thing for me, Noah, is not really anything to do with the individual player themselves. I think it's more so to do with what is around them.
Right.
Drake May loses his two best wide receivers. His offensive coordinator goes to Wisconsin, whereas Jordan Travis is the absolute opposite. He has the biggest receiver core in the ACC, all the guys electing to return. He returns the entire starting offensive line, including three guys who earned all ACC honors. Good running back core. They bring in Jaheim Bell out of South Carolina, their number one tight end a season ago. I think that, that's kind of the deciding factor for me. The pieces around Jordan Travis there at Florida State is really, really good. And I think that that's what's going to end up helping him win ACC Player of the Year. It pains me to say it, but I think Florida State's going to be a really good team this year, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Johnny Wilson coming back. I absolutely love that guy. That guy's an absolute animal. And then they get in Keon Coleman, transfer from Michigan State, 4-star transfer guy. I just think Florida State did really good in the transfer portal. They were, I believe, the top-ranked ACC team in the entire transfer portal. They were something like number 4 overall. Mike Norvell is very good in the transfer portal. And they did good in recruiting. Like, they weren't elite, but they were like top 20. They were definitely one of the higher teams in the ACC. So, and like you said, Drake May is losing Josh Downs, his number 1 receiver from last year, what have you. So I do think it'll be Travis, but I think it's a dead heat. Like, I think those two are like clear in a way. I mean, obviously Klubnik's kind of like a wild card, but at least from what we know now, since Sam Hartman left, those two are clear in a way the best quarterbacks in the ACC.
Yeah, Leary left as well. That's another good guy
Yep.
to mention. He had a rough go of it last year with the injuries, and they lost a lot to the draft. But if he were coming back, he would be a good candidate for a bounce back season, and like you said, kind of a wild card. So I think that with those two guys leaving, and there not being a lot of like really, really elite level quarterbacks in the ACC, that it's a dead race between these two guys.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm just excited to see them both play because they're just fun to watch. I mean, they both have that excitement factor, what have you, mobility, and obviously they're two very talented quarterbacks as well, passing the ball. So I'm excited to see what they do this year. Oh my God, a ton of comments. Where did I even leave off? This one. I will say this: there was a time that TNT, TBS, USA, ABC were not known for sports. The first time they got in live sports, people probably scratched their heads as
Keep
well.
in mind, Andrew is like 50 years old, so he's probably talking about like the 70s or the 80s, where me and Noah have no idea what the sports network industry was like at that point in time.
Well, speaking of no idea, we got the ACC quiz after our predictions, so stay tuned around for that if you want a little bit of comedy. John says ACC predictions: FSU, UNC, Clemson top 3. I agree. I think that's a really good top 3. A running back, yeah, good old Will Shipley. I almost said
Yeah,
Miles
he's a
Shipley.
stud.
I don't know
Like,
why, Garth. I just almost said Miles Shipley for some reason. Don't
yeah,
know why.
he's so good, Noah. Like it's really tough for a non-quarterback to win this award unless they just go out there and have like a generational type of season. But like,
Yeah.
this guy's the real deal. I got to watch him a lot last year. And honestly, other than the defense being so good, he's kind of the glue that held the offense together, because even when DJ was playing bad, this dude was carrying the load offensively and having like 30 carries a game. It was insane to watch. Like I watched actually the Syracuse game where it looked like Syracuse was either going to run away with the game completely or hold off at least to pull off the major upset when they were still at that kind of point in their season where they were red hot and like exceeding a lot of people's expectations. And he just took over offensively.
Yeah, another game I remember. First of all, obviously had a great games, but another game I remember where he really went off and the team needed it. Another game where Clemson to make a comeback was the Wake Forest game. He absolutely killed it in the fourth quarter of that game as well. I'm here to stay down. My pick is Drake May. Obviously, a really solid pick. Hartman will win it if he was still there. Honestly, I think he'd be right there. I think that's if Hartman was still there, that'd be like the runaway top 3 for me, in my opinion. Hartman was so good the last 2 years of Wake Forest, and he's going to be really good for Notre Dame this year as well. Never mind, I got UNC. Jordan Davis decommitted for FSU last month. Never mind, that was like 10 years ago. I was thinking of a different Davis for some weird reason. John's fired up tonight, man.
I'm kind of lost on that one. The only thing I could think of is maybe he was thinking about Travis Hunter when he like completely duped Florida State and went to Colorado, or not Colorado, Jackson State. He's at Colorado now, but he chose Jackson State back then.
Andrew says Hunter Renfro plays baseball.
Looks like the sports box cleared that one up for Andrew.
Yep. UNC has got big defense guys. That was UNC's biggest issue. It won't be the offense. Absolutely, their defense last year was terrible.
Was bad. Drake May had to go off every game for them to even have a shot.
Andrew, if you're 40, I'm 2. Like, there's no way. Dude. All right. Next one. Coach of the Year. There's some good candidates for this one as well. I guess I'll go first on this one since you went first last time. I think the obvious ones, Dabo Swinney, Mike Norvell, Mac Brown. But I'm going to go with a little bit of a wild card here, actually. A guy that massively overachieved with his team last year. A team that's not really known for its football team, more known for its basketball team. But actually last season, Garth, they were a pretty good team. I'm going to get up their stats real quick. I believe they went something like 8-4. I'm going to look it up just to confirm. Yeah, they went 8-4 in the regular season. Then they won their bowl game against one of our favorite teams in college football, Garth, good old UCF. They beat them 30-13 to finish 9-4 on the season. I'm going to go with Mike Elko, head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. I think they could have another sneaky season, Garth. Now, they do have some tough games. They play Clemson week 1 of the season, but it is at home. So week 1, you never know. Team's a little bit rusty, maybe a bit of upset alert there. The rest of our games, Lafayette, they'll win that. They'll beat Northwestern. They'll beat UConn. Notre Dame's a tough game. They'll probably lose that, but I think they could beat NC State. They can beat Louisville. They can beat Wake Forest without Hartman. They can beat Virginia. I think they could beat Pittsburgh. That's 8 games right there. And then there's really no games on their schedule that I look at and say they have absolutely no chance. Now, am I predicting them to win the ACC or anything like that? No. I think they can definitely lose to teams like Clemson or Florida State. But Elko is getting a lot out of what what little resources he had last year. And this year, if I put up the recruiting rankings, Duke was number 55 in the nation according to 247. Now, that's not elite, but for a team like Duke, that's friggin' nuts because we always associate Duke with having nobody, and now they're getting above average recruiting classes in the ACC as well. I think Elko is a very good coach. It's definitely an underrated pick for me. I'll go him for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, so actually, some of the comments not really agreeing with saying that it's because you're wearing the hat. I actually think that that's a pretty solid pick by you, because like you said, last year they were really good, honestly. Like even when they lost, they're really competitive. Mm-hmm. They returned a lot of guys from that roster a year ago. It's an experienced bunch. They like you said, they didn't light it up recruiting or anything, but for their standards, they did really, really well, and they actually got some really good guys. And I actually think they landed like a super high 4-star, maybe even a 5-star guy that everybody's like, whoa, what is Duke doing in football, landing somebody like this? Yeah. So it looks like they're kind of, slowly improving, becoming a little bit more of a football school. It definitely benefits them that they're in the ACC and not in a conference like the SEC. I think that they're kind of that feel-good story as well, where like, hey, this is a team that we're not used to seeing be good. They're slowly improving. Like, it's easy to kind of get behind these guys and give them your vote of confidence. One thing that I noticed too towards the end of the year, mm-hmm. the fan base started really showing out for this team at home games. The basketball team, which gets all the hype, rightfully so, was like there at all the games. They were posting on social media like, hey, come support. We're here. Join us. So when the community gets behind you, the school gets behind you, obviously that helps as well. You want your home field advantage to be tough and be packed and loud. I like the choice a lot. I'll be honest, it wasn't my pick, but I could see it, and it was definitely towards the top of my list. I think it kills me to say this. I don't think – I'll tell you real quick who's not winning it. Mario Cristobal and that laughing stock down there in Miami. Yeah. And the other person that's not winning it is Dabo, and that's not because he's a bad coach and isn't going to do well. It's because he's been the staple of the ACC. He's been good for so long that it's just expected of him. I mean, it would take like them just absolutely obliterating everybody every single week and being undefeated for him to win, I feel like. So who I'm going to go for to actually probably, if I had to pick a second place team, probably Duke with Elko. I'm going to go with Mike Norvell at Florida State because I think very much similar. It's kind of the feel-good story where this is a team that just a few seasons ago was not good. They were the laughing stock of the ACC because they were losing left and right. They're getting beat pretty badly. They've steadily improved each year under him, especially last year, took a really big jump forward. Like I already talked about, I expect them to have a really good team overall and especially offensively this year. And I think that they're going to be really, really competitive in every single game that they play, whether they win or lose. And I think as long as I'll say this, as long as they make the ACC title game, I think that that's kind of the deciding factor. They need to make it there. Mike Norvell will win Coach of the Year.
Good choice. I think that's another really respectable. I think both teams that were very competitive most of their games last year and overachieved for sure. But I will say this, maybe a reason that they might not win it. It's one thing to come out of nowhere and have a good season, but can you show you can repeat it? Now, I think Duke can, which is why I picked them, because last year, like you said, Garth, their biggest loss this season was by 8 points to Kansas. They had a 2-point loss and 2 3-point losses. And 3 of the 4 teams they lost to were bowl eligible by the end of the season in Kansas, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, they did lose those bums down in Atlanta, the good old Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. But yeah, solid choices, I think. Oh my God, so many comments. Let's see here. Thanks for the Daniel Jones support, old boy. No problem,
Good
old
old
boy.
Daniel Jones.
A team that could slide Clemson out is Duke. What I just mentioned that when I was talking about Duke. Well done, John. Looked very much improved in returning most of the team.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. They return a lot of last year's roster.
Yep, 17 returning starters, like John said. I'm not wearing the hat I didn't pick them because I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing the hat because I knew I was going to pick Elko. How about that, John? Some reverse psychology on you right there. I'm still dumbfounded that UCF really believes in their mind they want an Natty that year.
Trust me, I live right in their backyard, and it is unbearable, dude. You and Noah's hate for like Georgia Tech fans and Tennessee fans. Like I hate Tennessee too. Georgia Tech, I don't really have a reason to hate because we don't play them, and there's no like rivalry from the past or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess UCF would be like what Georgia Tech is to you guys to me.
Duke allowing 39.8 points per game. I'm assuming he meant 2021. This unit surrendered only 22.1 in Elko's debut season. Garth, you wear a shirt that wears DUF when Duke plays Florida, given the fact you like both teams.
So this is actually a really good question, Noah, and I've gotten none other than Mikey Bradley fired up about this before. So basically where my fandom lies, guys, is I kind of root for Florida and everything, but easily my most passionate sport with them is football. With Duke, it's like 99% basketball. And then like I very loosely pay attention to the football program and like to see them do well. So I guess probably the easiest way to answer that question, though, is if it were a football game, I would be rooting for Florida. If it were a basketball game, I would be rooting for Duke.
Yep, solid choices. I'm kind of Georgia all around. I mean, I kind of support Duke in college just because you got me into it, but technically I still am a Georgia basketball fan. Man, they suck so bad. But you know what? It is what it is. My ACC coach of the year is Marcus Freeman. Tom's fired up, man, about his independent Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
You need to get them to join a conference already, my man. Like send them angry emails, something. Like get the fire lit under their behinds to get into a conference.
Well, you know, the longer they don't, the more we get to troll Notre Dame, which is always fun. But I do think they'll be really good this year. I will say that. I think Marcus Freeman is young, up-and-coming coach, and Sam Hartman's a great get for them. Being in the SEC, you don't even play half your conference in a decade. Well, we're adding 2 more teams next year, and you know what that means, Andrew?
Yeah, but
no divisions.
You know, actually, though, no, I don't really know how true that is because think about it. In the East, we pretty much play everybody, even if it's not all in the same year. Within 2 or 3 seasons, you play everybody in the East. And then, obviously, I don't know your guys' schedule the past few years as good as ours, but just in the past, like 3 or 4 seasons, we've played Auburn, we've played Ole Miss, we've played Texas Tech, we've played LSU. I believe we've played Mississippi State. Could be wrong on that. But, you know, it might not all go down in one season because there's only so many games and there's so many teams in the conference, but I feel like there's a pretty good spread. Oh yeah, Alabama. We just played Alabama not too long ago. I feel like the SEC gets around, if you will.
Andrew's probably just mad that Missouri would go 10-2 in the Pac-12. That's probably what it is.
Fun fact: since
Yes.
2010, the only team to win the SEC East other than Florida or Georgia is the Missouri Tigers when they went back to back, and I believe 2012 and 2013, if not 2013, 2014.
That's crazy. That is absolutely nuts. UGA basketball is getting better, though. Mike White is a decent coach. You're about to fire up Garth. Garth hates Mike White.
So here's my thing, like all bias, trash talking aside, I don't think Mike White is a bad coach. I think that he tends to get like more out of players. Like he's a players coach that can get the players he has to play at a higher level. I don't think he is a good recruiter. And in college basketball, I think recruiting is actually even more important than college football because you physically have less players. So you need those 7 or 8 players on your roster to all be really, really good to have like consistent success. Obviously, there's Cinderella runs here and there where like a team you never expected goes on a big tournament run but to actually have like sustained success year in, year out, you need recruiting to be really well. For your guys' sake, I hope that he ends up being good because I don't really have nothing against Georgia basketball, being a passionate Duke fan. Just that's kind of my unbiased take on the guy.
That's what she said. Most surprised improved teams this year: Texas and Mississippi State. Oh, that's a good one. I hate to say it. I think Florida's going to be improved this year. I think they could win 8 or 9 games. I think that's a good choice. I think Oregon could take the next step, maybe with Dan Lanning. Oklahoma with Brent Venables, I think he could get him going in the right direction. There's a lot of really good choices, honestly. That's a tough question there.
Yeah.
Missouri wouldn't beat Colorado. I mean, I would hope not with like the 58 players they got transferring in, their whole new team that they got for Deion Sanders. He underachieved a little bit at UF, but UJ's been on the rise so far. Not sure about recruiting, though. Maryland, Arizona, and Iowa. Look, I mean, no Spencer Petrus's addition by subtraction, right? So maybe Iowa could take that next
I
step.
love Iowa because they play such a good, like, hard-nosed, physical brand of football.
Yeah.
But good Lord, it's like they just refuse to learn how to play offense there. It's like their defense is so good, but they cannot field the offense opposite to give them a real chance.
All right, any Miami fans, if you're watching, you might want to click off because I think I know what Garth's going to say for this segment. Overachievers and underachievers. I guess we'll go one of each. Overachiever. I think I already kind of hinted at it. I'll go with Duke on this one. I think they could be really good this season. Team that flies under the radar, doesn't get, top level recruits too often, but with how competitive Elko has made them, I think they could overachieve again this season and be another solid 8 or 9 win team. Underachiever. Actually, I'm not even going to go an underachiever. I'm just going to go a straight loser. Georgia Tech is one of the most embarrassing college football programs in recent memory. Look, don't get me wrong. I will say this, and this is what the Georgia Tech fans love to harp on about UGA. Georgia Tech academically is the best school in Georgia. I'll give them that. But that has nothing to do with your college football team. Your college football team is an embarrassment. It absolutely sucks. The most happiness Georgia Tech fans, Garth, get every season is whenever UGA loses a game. So you can bet the past 2 seasons they've been absolutely miserable. It's honestly like they've disappeared off the face of the planet. Like I used to have Georgia Tech fans all over my pages on Facebook, on Twitter, talking shit. Last 2 seasons, it's like they all went to freaking, Guatemala or something on a mission trip. I ain't heard from them since. Like they've just disappeared everywhere because they can't celebrate their team winning. They got to celebrate their rivals losing, but that hasn't happened recently. You guys are an absolute joke. I can't wait to watch you guys lose 8 or 9 games again this year. They went 5-7 last year, which was great for them, but they're just so bad. And I love. Here's the thing, right? I have a lot of friends that go to Georgia Tech, right, and it amuses me how, I hear them complaining about how terrible their life is and how much they hate going to school there. But at least, right, if you were going to a tough school like a USC or a Michigan or an Ohio State, you could say, you know what? at least they have a good college football team. They can't even get that, Garth. They can't even get one bit of happiness. They hate their school life. Their sports team sucks. They got no friends, no social life, no money because they're paying $800,000 per year in tuition. It just sucks to be a Georgia Tech guy, and it absolutely pains me to see them suffering like that. But what about you? One overachiever slash winner and loser or underachiever?
Yeah, so the first category, the winner slash overachiever, I can't really go with Florida State, even though I expect them to have a really good year because I think the expectations are very high for them this year. From everything I read, like all the ACC insiders are expecting them to either finish runner up or even win the ACC. It's really hard for them to overachieve. They would have to like win the ACC and go on to the playoffs and at least win a playoff game, if not the whole thing, for it really to be like, wow, they massively overachieved. So I think because of that, I'm going to actually agree with you, Noah, and go with Duke because I think it's much more realistic for them to overachieve. Like their bar for overachievement is a lot lower than what Florida State says this year. And then for the big losers, Georgia Tech actually is a really good pick. But I'm going to have to take kind of the same route that you did and go with a rival fan base that drives me nuts. And that I hate and acts like they're way better than they are, in the Miami Hurricanes. And here's my reason why. I think the biggest one, Noah, Mario Cristobal. The thing that I've tried to tell Miami fans since they hired him, what did he do at Oregon? He recruited really well, but he couldn't win a damn football game. His career coaching record is literally 500. And he's coached, I believe, like 100 total football games now. Like he's very well into his college career and he's sitting at 500. So it's pretty evident that he is not exactly the brightest X's and O's guy out there in the country. Secondly, they did, by way of just paying way, way more money in NIL last recruitment cycle, land a bunch of really good recruits and bring in a good class. But at the end of the day, this is a roster that I think that still has a lot of holes in it. Like they've got a good player here and there. Like they've got a really good safety in Kitchens, actually one of the best in the nation. But the roster top to bottom, I don't look at it and go, wow, like they've got a really good offensive line or, they've got a really good wide receiver core. It's just not that way. And, I don't foresee them having a really, really good year. And not only that, Noah, this team is now 0-3 against FCS, Middle Tennessee, which they paid to play them on all three occasions.
Yes.
And they got absolutely boat raced by Florida State in their home building last year in front of a sellout crowd, which is a very rare occurrence for them because the Miami fans there don't even show up for home games. It was like 95% Florida State. So I don't see them having a good year. And there's a lot of teams in this conference where you can say, all right, maybe they're not going to go out there and light the world on fire, but I can see them being competitive, like a Wake Forest, like a Pitt, like a NC State. This team, I can't say the same thing about it. And I think that they're probably in for another rough year, honestly.
Andrew and John in the comments, we're talking about ACC teams, like talking about Colorado, Washington State, like
the Andrew better have the same fired up and passion for next week's Pac-12.
Yes. Remember these comments next week for the Pac-12 show, but for these segments, we're just talking about the ACC because it's an ACC prediction show. Let's see. Arizona is much improved. Don't be surprised they sneak into a bowl game. Use that insult because that's all they got. Oh, Georgia Tech, yeah. Loser Washington State. Huck the Fuskies. Go Ducks. Hurricanes definitely underachieved last year, though. They started out hot and fizzled out fast.
Here's the thing with that, though, Noah. And actually, me, you, and Dr. CFB talked about this. And it just goes back to the whole, like, this is the Cowboys fan base of college football. It's like every postseason, for whatever reason, like it's not really justified. Like there's nothing there that makes you go, you know what? Miami's going to go out there and absolutely kill it this year. They've got a wicked good roster. They've got a hell of a head football coach. Like they're one of the teams that beat in the ACC. And despite that, it's like they still get ranked in the top 25. They get hyped way up. Like, oh my God, here we go. Miami football's back, and then we go and see them, play a team like Alabama, like an actual good quality opponent, absolutely obliterated. Then they followed up with a FCS Middle Tennessee State, and they beat the brakes off of them like 55-7 or whatever the score was last year. And all of a sudden they're like 500 or a losing record, unranked, and
Yes.
everybody's like, "Oh wow, I can't believe this happened. Miami sucks." I don't get it. It's a reoccurring cycle. Like, if it were justified, I would be the first person to be like, you know what? I'll swallow my pride. Miami should be good this year, just like I did with FSU. But with Miami, I don't see it, man. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're look, like you said, they had the best recruiting class in the ACC, number 7 overall, because they went ham on NIL. But I mean, like you said, Cristobal, he's a decent coach. Like, I think he's really good with the offensive line. But like when it comes to like managing everything as a whole, like you said, he's just kind of a career 500 coach, and that's over a good amount of games played. So I bet Syracuse have more wins than Miami. That might be a good shot.
Very
Garrett Schrader's
possible,
coming back.
actually.
Garrett
Yep.
Schrader's a good quarterback, so that could be possible. Top 2 teams. I'm not going to waste any time on this one, Guard. To me, this is easy. I think Clemson's the nailed-on favorite for me to win the ACC this year, because you still got Dabo there. They still get excellent recruits in. And I think if Cade Klubnik, as long as he doesn't hold the team back like DJ did, I think the offense can be very explosive as well, with Will Shipley kind of carrying the load on offense. Defensively, they're absolutely stacked. Let me get up their depth chart real quick. They're just absolutely loaded
Best
with experience.
linebacker in the ACC, hands down.
They also have Tyler Davis, graduate student at nose tackle. That guy's back-to-back first-team All-ACC. Their line is loaded, and their offense, I think, will be very good as well. The only thing I would say is their wide receivers are a bit inexperienced, a bunch of sophomores and a couple freshmen. They only have 3 upperclassmen receivers, but overall, I think they'll be excellent offensively, or at least much improved offensively with a really good defense. The second spot is very close. We don't have to worry about divisions because there's no divisions now. So it's just, who do you think is the second best team in the ACC this year? I think it's between 2 teams, Florida State and UNC. And I'm going to go with Florida State over UNC for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think Florida State's defense is way better. UNC's defense last year was terrible. Florida State had like a top 20 offense and defense, especially their pass defense. I think their pass defense
Yeah,
was
their
really
secondary
good.
was very good. Also, too, no, one thing I'll add real quick. The guy that a lot of NFL draft scouts are pegging as the not just a good defensive end, but the number 1 defensive end coming up in this year's draft class, in Jared Verse.
Oh yeah, he's ridiculous. Yeah, that's another thing as well. And number 2, first of all, I think Florida State killed it in the transfer portal. And I think their recruiting overall was a little bit better than UNC. I think their team is more well balanced. I think UNC is down to Drake May needs to absolutely kill it this year for them to have a shot. And they did make the championship game last year and got absolutely boat raced by Clemson. But I think Klubnik played in that game as well, and he looked pretty good from what I remember. But yeah, I just think overall Florida State's a little bit more balanced. So I'll pick them as that second team.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you here, Noah, because I got Clemson as my number 1. Dabo's still there. I think a really big thing that a lot of people have kind of forgotten about last year is this Clemson football team, honestly, was really, really good. Like, they were one of the best defensive units in all of college football. Will Shipley was an absolute stud at running back. He comes back. Their offensive line, defensive front is very, very stout and physical and imposing. And quite frankly, DJ really held that team back last year. Like, even if they just had average quarterback play, there's a very good chance that they would have been in the college football playoffs yet again. And I think downright Cade Klubnik is a better quarterback, and he has, the ability to have a really, really good year. Whether or not that'll happen or not will be, we'll have to wait and see. But like you said, I think as long as he doesn't play so bad that it holds the offense back like DJ did, they're going to be, the clear-cut favorites to win the conference, and we very well could see them in the playoffs again, as long as they kind of do what we're used to seeing them do. Second, behind them, I do have to go Florida State because, like you said, I think that they're just a much more well-rounded team than UNC. UNC is kind of like hey, we've got this elite quarterback who can really carry the load offensively and put up really impressive numbers. But outside of that, it's like this team does not have a lot. The defense was absolutely abysmal last year. Felt like every single game they played in, no matter who the opponent was a absolute shootout, barn burner type of game, high scoring, because the defense could not stop a nosebleed, and Drake May was just that good. But I do think losing his top receiving options is going to hurt a little bit. I think he's still going to have a fantastic year, but that combined with a bad defense that I don't expect to be like night and day better, I just can't put them there in that second spot. And Florida State, they have it all. They got Jordan Travis under center. Norvell is now going into his 4th or 5th season, so his system is established. He killed it in the transfer portal, like you said. The recruiting wasn't elite, but it was still pretty darn good. And they just, like I said earlier in the show, Noah, they have a lot of experience. The wide receiver room is deep. It's big. It's talented. The offensive line as a whole returns. They've got 3 all ACC linemen coming back. They've got a really good stable of running backs that can pitch in and get the running game going. The defense was really, really good last year, specifically in pass coverage. I don't see how you can put a team above them for second looking at the ACC. And then UNC is kind of that distance third where, like, if things go really, really well for them, they could sneak into the championship game. But I've got Clemson, FSU for sure.
John, I hate to do this to you, but I think you just made yourself a candidate for Sean of the Week with this comment. Boat race, Clemson beat UNC by 1 point.
Yeah, it was not a close game. I actually remember tuning out of it because I was so bored.
John, I love you, buddy, but you just took a massive L with that comment right there, I think. Clemson will lose their first game. Duke got Clemson with 4 losses. FSU and UNC. Tom says, can't stand Syracuse football, LOL.
I'm curious to hear your reasoning behind that, Tom, because for people who don't really know, one, I'm a New York native, born and raised up until about 4 years ago. And Syracuse is actually, obviously there's a ton of colleges in New York, and there's a ton of colleges that have good sports programs, but Syracuse is like the actual one legit FBS D1 team that's, even if they're not winning championships or anything, like they're relevant, they're talked about. You see them on the biggest stages, for TV coverage wise.
Yeah. Let me just hang on. I'm just doing something real quick.
Also, Carmelo Anthony, Boeheim, national title, basketball.
Well, I think it's because Tom lives in New York. He probably knows a lot of annoying Syracuse fans. The ACC championship, I was talking about the regular season game. Yeah, John, I hate to do this to you again, but we got the schedule up here, and they didn't play North Carolina in the regular season, so never mind. That was 2019. John, you're fired up tonight, and I love it, man.
Hey, John, not trying to be mean by any means, but we're in 2023 closing in on 2024, so that is almost 5 years ago, my buddy.
John's fired up, man. We love it. We absolutely love it. Love you, John. But hey, I have those moments every now and then as well. I remember a show we did in our first season where I talked about Iowa State being a contender for the Big Ten or some bullshit like that. I had absolute blunder that day. But now, wins the ACC. Not going to waste any time on this one, Garth. I'm going to Clemson. I think they're the best overall team. I think their defense is clearly the best in the ACC. Like I said, I think as long as Klubnik doesn't hold back their offense should be much better because they were really good the past 2 seasons despite having no quarterback play at all with DJ. Once Klubnik came in that championship game, like I said, they absolutely killed UNC, who was one of the best teams in that conference last year. I think Florida State will keep it close. Like, I don't think this is a season like most seasons it was with Clemson ACC to where they just absolutely steamroll it and like they're the clear best team. They go undefeated and whatnot. No one's even close. I think Florida State and UNC could keep it close, but I think Dabo's still there. We know what he can do as a head coach. I think their offense will be better. I think their defense is great. I do think they'll win the ACC this year. What about you?
Yeah, I think they're my favorite to win it as well. And the thing with Cade Klubnik, rather, the thing with him, Noah, is like he was a 5-star coming out of high school. This is a guy who's expected to be really, really good. We just obviously can't guarantee it because he is still inexperienced with DJ being the guy there and him just getting thrown in towards the end of the year. But he looked really good when he did get put in finally. And he had a full offseason to prepare. He's older coming into the season, obviously. The pieces around him are very good. So like we've both been saying all night, as long as he doesn't play bad, that it holds the offense back, this team is the best, at least on paper. Obviously, that's only worth so much, but on paper, they are the most well-rounded, most balanced, complete team in the ACC. I think that we could all agree that Dabo is the best coach in the ACC as of right now because he is that established championship caliber winning coach. And a lot of people were like, hey, the defense is going to take a major step back. Venables is gone. And yet they still were a very, very elite unit in all of college football, not even just the ACC. So I think it's definitely their conference to lose. My pick for game of the year, no, I know it's not a banner or nothing, but my pick for the game of the year, Florida State actually travels to Clemson, to Death Valley to play them. And I think that obviously won't be the end-all be-all for who wins the ACC, but I think it'll be a really good measuring stick to see just how close is FSU actually to Clemson. And also, fun fact, I believe it's 42 or 43 games winning streak Clemson has at home that's going to be riding on the line against a very good Florida State football team. Should be a really, really good game that I'm going to be looking forward to sitting down and watching this year. But yeah, Clemson winning it with Florida State in the second.
Well, I typed down our predictions so we can review them at the end of the year to see if we did well or if we take massive L's. Knowing us, we'll probably knowing us, congratulations to UNC for winning the ACC this year. Congratulations, guys. Andrew just says, take a lap. Had a little too much booze over the last 6 days. I understand, John. Clemson also lost 10 players in transfer. Yeah, we mentioned that last week. Dabo doesn't like the transfer portal. They only got one 3-star guy in the transfer portal, and that was it. So they did lose a bit. So if they don't win it, I think that could be a reason why. But all right, Garth, last segment. It's time for us to laugh at ourselves a little bit to see how we do on some trivia. I got an ACC trivia quiz that we can do. Let me just share the screen here.
I feel like I'm either going to do way better than I would have ever expected at this, or I'm going to fail miserably. There'll be no in between.
All right, we're not going to look at the comments for this one because we don't want people to spoil. We'll start with this one, Garth. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm going to full screen real quick here so I physically cannot see any comments. Okay.
Yeah. What does ACC stand for? This is a little softball for you, Garth, to start with.
This one I know from basketball. It is the Atlantic Coast Conference.
There you go. All right. When was the ACC founded? I know this one because I was doing research earlier. 1953. All right. Which team was not originally part of the conference, Garth?
Oh, God. Wait, do you know this one, though, or you have no idea like myself?
I think we're kind of alternating, but me?
Okay. Yeah, that works.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not – like Garth said, we're not 7 years old like Andrew is, so our history knowledge might not be the best for stuff.
The thing, too, is ACC I know a lot of for basketball and absolutely nothing for football-wise, at least historically speaking. If I had to guess, though, Noah, I feel like it's Georgia Tech because they were in – it might not have been the SEC back then, but I want to say they were in some Southern of some sort conference before joining the ACC.
There you go. You got it right. They didn't join until 1979. And their football team didn't join until 1983. All right. Now, I don't really understand this one. I'm going to assume this is talking about sports other than football because obviously this makes no sense.
I think what it's asking, though, is obviously none of them are in the ACC anymore, but one of them was at one point.
I feel like it's South Carolina. I don't know why. I think it's South Carolina. I'm not sure, but I feel like I don't think South Carolina's been in the ACC the entire time they've existed. I don't know for sure. I know it's not Michigan. That makes no sense at all.
Right.
Auburn, I don't really see. I'm going to go with South Carolina. There we go. Thank God.
That was going to be my guess as well.
What year did Florida State join the ACC?
Oh, God. This one actually, like Georgia Tech, I at least had like a little sliver of hope. Like, hey, I think it's them. This one, I have absolutely no idea at all. So this is just going to be a complete guess.
Complete guess.
I know they were in the ACC when Spurrier and Bowden were going at it in like the mid to late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were in it in either the 80s or the 70s. And I know obviously it wasn't as late as 04. So I'm going to go with 91.
There you go. Got it. Man, we're freaking like 5 for 5 or whatever. We're doing well. All right, this one. Aside from Notre Dame, how many teams are in the ACC? Now, I'm gonna assume this is talking about football.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't make sense to mention Notre Dame then. But Notre Dame, I think technically, I don't think they're a part of a conference. I don't really understand what they mean about Notre Dame there. I know they're like technically associated with ACC, but they're not really a member, so on and so forth. I know in football, I think it's 12. I'm not good at counting, but I believe it's 12. 14 sounds like too much. 14 is like what the SEC is now, and the ACC isn't as big as the SEC. So I'm going to Notre Dame's football team is only partially part of the conference. You know what? We're going to say that question's rigged. That question makes no sense.
That's weird. The whole Notre Dame aspect of that was really weird, honestly.
Let me check real quick. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Oh, they do have 14. I'm an idiot. All right, there you go. Massive L right there. All right, Garth. Which ACC team plays football games at Hard Rock Stadium?
So actually, these next two questions, I 110% know.
Yeah, these are easy.
Yeah, this one's Miami.
There you go.
Also shares it with the Miami Dolphins because they don't have their own football stadium and they cannot sell tickets to save their lives. They're one of the worst in the entire nation in home field attendance.
You just throwing shots all night, man. You confused yourselves? Yeah, probably. The Notre Dame thing threw me off. Which player won a Heisman? Wait, is it your turn? Yeah, it's my turn. I did the Duke one, so Duke plays at Cameron Indoor. Which player won a Heisman Trophy for the Pitt Panthers?
Wow, this one's tough because I have no idea where Dan Marino played college football. That probably sounds really bad. Obviously, I know he played for the Miami Dolphins.
See, I know he played for Pitt. I don't know if he won the Heisman, though.
Okay. Mike Ditka won. I don't think he really played a position where he had a legit chance at winning a Heisman. Secondly, I have no idea where he played college football. Marshall Goldberg. If I sound like a complete idiot for saying this, guys, I do apologize. I have no idea what he even did in college football. And then Tony Dorsett, I guess that could be a possibility. I think realistically for me, Noah, it's between Dan Marino and Tony Dorsett. Mm-hmm. I don't think Tony Dorsett played college football at Pitt, though. That just does not sound like a thing. So I think for that reason, I'm going to have to go with Dan Marino here. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think it was between those two. I couldn't remember where Dorsett played either because, I mean, God, that's how long ago now. But
yeah, right there, 1977 NFL draft. Neither one of us are born or even close to being born.
It's all the old questions that we wouldn't get. All right, this one is easy. Which conference was Pittsburgh in before joining the ACC? It's the Big East.
Yep.
That's easy. Which coach, all right, this is also easy. Which coach guided FSU to its first national title in 1993?
Good old Bobby Bowden, all rivalry aside, absolute legend of the sport.
All right, so, oh, no, this is where we see, you know this one, but do I know this one? Because I know that they won 5 with Coach K. That's easy.
Oh.
I don't know.
I was going to give you a hint, but it answers the question if I give a hint, I feel like.
I don't know if they won any before him, so I'm probably going to say 5. They could have won one before him. I just know Coach K won 5, so there we go.
Yep, Coach K is the only one that's won any there.
All right, this one is easy. I love how these questions are either really easy or they're like, you have to be like 7 years old and a football historian to know the answer. What's the nickname of Clemson's football stadium?
Death Valley.
Death Valley.
It's really weird that there's 2 Death Valleys in college football as well.
I know, I hate it. There should only be one. This is probably outdated, but
yeah.
Roy Williams, I'm going to assume. Yep, there you go. What team did Michael Vick play for?
Virginia Tech.
Easy. Who's the mascot of Wake Forest? The Demon Deacons.
Yep.
Who did Michael Jordan lead to a championship in men's basketball?
North Carolina.
Dude, these questions, like they're
They're either really, really hard or just like not really common sense, but like if you follow college sports, you should know it.
This question
Oh.
this is one Andrew would like. Which ACC school does not have a baseball team?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Neither one of us can see the comments here, Noah, obviously, because we blocked them out. But I hope that he's chiming in on this one because I feel like this is something he should know.
I have no idea because I barely follow college baseball at all, other than like following top prospects for the MLB draft. God, this is basically Garth going to be a complete guess.
So out of those four, there's only one that I know like 110% has a team.
You know what? I'm just going to say Syracuse because I know they've been in the ACC for football the shortest amount of time. So that makes the most sense to me. And there we go. Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. All right. Oh, God. This is which ACC women's basketball team did Dawn Staley play for from 88 to 92? This is a complete guess, in my opinion. I have no idea about this.
If it were men's, I would probably know this or at least have a very good idea. Women's. So the thing is, for basketball, I feel like Boston College was a late addition to the conference. Virginia, I know, was in it back then. Pittsburgh, I feel like, was back in it. Florida State, I don't know if they were in it for basketball in that time span. So I think it's definitely between Pittsburgh and Virginia. I'm going to go with Virginia just because out of those two, Noah, they're like the school that has a better historical speaking, like basketball tradition, like good teams.
Hey, there you go. You got it. We're guessing great on this one. We've only missed like 2 questions, I think, the whole thing. Okay, I have no idea on this one. Like, not even the slightest clue. Which ACC basketball team plays in KFC Yum Center?
Wow, this is actually a tough one because I know some of the venues' names, but I don't know every single one. And I could see like any one of those being that name.
Why am I getting all the college basketball
I feel
questions?
like a little bit of a hint for you, Noah. I feel like it wouldn't be Boston College just because that's like a very like historical university. Like they keep things the same way they've been for years and years. So I think you could probably eliminate them. Those other 3, I don't really know, honestly.
For some reason, I don't think it's Boston College, like you said. It doesn't sound like a name Florida State would use. Like that just sounds too random. They like naming their stadiums after coaches and stuff. So I think it's either between Virginia Tech and Louisville. And to be honest, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Louisville is in Kentucky. If this isn't right, it's at least a very educated
That's
guess.
a good point.
There we go. All right.
Yep.
Which oh my god! And then you get all the layups, man. I get the tough questions.
Obviously, Florida State guys.
There you go. When did Boston College join the ACC? All right, so I can guess a little bit on this one because when Matt Ryan was on Boston College in 2007, I'm pretty sure they were already in the ACC. So that eliminates the first 2 options. I don't think they've been in the ACC for that long. I feel like they're a newer team, so I don't think it's 92. I'm going to go with 2005 on this one.
Yep, that was my guess as well.
Which ACC team plays softball? Oh, my God. Softball in Shirley Clements Mewborn Field.
I literally don't even have, like, the slightest thing to go off of to try and, like, make my guess educated here. Yeah, I literally don't know. I have a 25% chance here, guys, because I got nothing to try and go off of. I'm going to go with Miami, Noah. Just a gut feeling. Nothing other than that. Oh, my God. Tech. That was my other guess. I was between Georgia Tech and Miami.
Yeah, no one knows that. Let's be honest. Who watches college softball? I mean, obviously, I'm sure some people do. But then they know the stadium's names. Like, come on now. And then we get this question.
Yeah.
Who did Lamar Jackson win the Heisman Trophy with? Louisville. Which Florida State player? Oh, my God.
Winston.
Which ACC team won the NCAA men's basketball championship in 2017? Oh God, see, this is easy for you, but I don't watch college basketball.
Yeah.
It's not Florida State. It's not Louisville. I'm gonna go UNC.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good pick.
it's kind of
So,
easy.
fun fact: Florida State actually has only won it once ever, and they didn't really technically win it. They just happened to be in first place when COVID canceled the season.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Jeez. When the Maryland women's basketball team won you're getting all the women's question. Won the NCAA championship in 2006. Who was named the tournament's
Oh
most
my God.
outstanding player?
I have no idea again. I can tell you that I know that Maryland's basketball programs for both men and women's were really, really good in the 2000s. Like they had a run in the 2000s. As far as who the player could be, absolutely zero idea. I'm gonna go with Laura Harper, I guess. Oh my God.
Hell yeah, we're killing it, man. All right, which AC? And then I get this question: the absolute easiest layup
Yep.
of all time. Calvin Johnson played for Georgia Tech.
Oh my God, another one with what school doesn't have a team?
Bro, they think you're a college softball fan. All the softball questions you're getting.
I feel like Miami has to because I know for sure they have a men's team. Virginia, I know for sure has a men's team, so I would assume that they also have a women's team. Pittsburgh, I know they have a men's team. I feel like I got to go with North Carolina State, Noah. Could be wrong, though, but that's like my best guess.
See, we'll pick NC State, but I will say, like, if I was choosing, I would probably pick Pittsburgh because
it could be Pittsburgh. I'm definitely between Pittsburgh and NC State
because they haven't been in the ACC as long as some of these other teams. So we'll go NC State because you said that. It's actually Miami. Wow, we're both wrong about that one. That's surprising.
That's really weird because they take baseball very seriously.
Yeah, Miami's been in the ACC forever. I'm shocked by that one. And then I get this question: what's the University of Virginia's mascot? The good old Virginia Cavaliers. I have their hat over on my door over there somewhere. It's a beautiful hat. I've worn it on the show before. Which team outside of the ACC is a rival of Pittsburgh?
I would have to assume Penn State since they're both Pennsylvania teams.
Yeah, that's West Virginia could also be a choice there. Brandon Kring loves the Pittsburgh Panthers, man. He's a big Pitt fan. Which ACC team plays football in Lane Stadium? Virginia Tech.
Easy. Good old Enter Sandman.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love that one. Which team did Deshaun Watson lead the national championship?
Clemson.
Which ACC?
Oh, this is a good one. It's obvious for me, but I really like this question in general because that's a legend of the sport that unfortunately was taken away from us too early on due to cancer.
Good old Jimmy V, rest in peace. Yeah, you're going to know this. I have no friggin' clue. Why am I getting all the college basketball questions when I know absolutely nothing about college basketball other than like the absolute basics? Okay.
I will give you one hint, Noah, since you don't really follow college basketball that much. It's definitely not North Carolina because, they had Roy Williams forever, and before him it was Dean Smith for forever.
Mm-hmm.
So they've really only had 3 coaches total in like the past 30 years, 40 years, maybe even that long. So it's definitely not them.
I kind of figured that. I don't know why I don't think it's NC State. I have no reason to justify that. I just feel like that's a weird school choice. Louisville has been successful in the past. I know that. Wake Forest. I think it's between Louisville or Wake Forest. Once again, if I get this wrong, I'm not a college basketball guy, but I'm going to guess on this one. I'm going to go Louisville on this. Oh, my God. The one team I said I didn't think it was freaking NC State. Damn it, man. Yeah, I don't know anything about college basketball. I do know Jimmy V, obviously, rest in peace, and Jimmy V Foundation is great and all that. And then you get this absolute layup.
Like, I actually answered this earlier in the show when I talked about why should Tom not dislike Syracuse, and I mentioned Carmelo playing for Syracuse, and actually their lone national championship came with him.
We got 30 out of 35. You know what? Considering all those questions weren't even football related, I think that was actually pretty good. That was a good effort.
There's a little bit of everything in there. So,
yep. So that was crunch time for the week. We did a little pick and impact players for teams last week. Decided to do a quiz for this one. If you guys enjoyed this quiz, let us know. We could pick quizzes for other conferences in the future. But that That was interesting. I'm surprised we did that well, honestly. Let's look at the comments here. Can't see the choices. The words are tiny. Yeah, I could zoom it in for the next one. We could see it at least. So maybe it's just a skill issue on your part, Andrew. Maybe the eyes are going a bit because you're like 58 years old or whatever. But John says, yeah, Duke with 5, one less than UNC. He had to throw in that part, of course.
Whoa, John. That is true. Coach K has more than either Roy Williams or Dean Smith, though.
There you go. There you go. Big East. Yep, the Pittsburgh question. I remember that. You know you want to say Taggart. I saw him as a choice. I was like, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Virginia, Louisville, easy. Miami used to consistently make the CWS. You just had to throw in the easy, John, because you know college basketball. I don't, okay? Come on, man. Syracuse. Easy basketball questions. And John's just throwing shots at me. Attended the Jimmy V Classic at 2018 fun time. Not bad, 30 out of 35. Yeah, that wasn't bad. So if you guys did enjoy that.
We didn't fail, that's for sure.
We did really good. I didn't expect to do that good. So if you guys did enjoy that quiz, we can do one in the future. But last topic, our favorite topic of the week. It's the Sean of the week. I'll let you think on this one, Garth, because I already have mine easily prepped and ready to go. And my Sean of the week for this week, Garth, is actually you. Garth Michael Patrick is the Sean of the week for a very particular reason. Earlier today, he sent me his Florida schedule predictions for this year, and he showed me this. First of all, the first L that right away is that he initially got the date for the Utah game wrong, so he had to cross it out and type Manny on it Thursday 8/29. But look at this, Garth. You have Florida winning 10 games easily, not even debatable, and then you have the Georgia and LSU games as toss-ups. So you have Florida potentially going undefeated this year. Now, look, I know I've given Napier credit. He's killing in the transfer portal. He's doing great recruiting or whatnot, but you haven't won in 10 or 11 games this year, man. What's that all about?
So what's funny with this, guys, is obviously that's not my schedule prediction because, as much as I like to hype my team up and be excited, I don't expect us to have that type of season. I would love for us to. I expect us to be more around like slightly above 500, like 7-8 wins, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. 2, I wouldn't get the date wrong of a game.
Yep.
That's like the ultimate L of if you're a fan of your team and you don't even know when they're playing. Especially college football when it's 1 game per week. It's not like MLB where there's 182 games in a season.
What's that all about, man? Come on, man. You know better than that. Freaking could potentially go undefeated.
I think the best part about this whole schedule release thing here, prediction. Yeah, sorry, Andrew 162. Is that when Noah sent it to me, my response to him was, "Oh, cool! This something like this is cool to see your very unbiased predictions."
Yeah, he said it was mine. Freaking butthead. Yep. But you're losing in Kentucky. Definitely losing to SC by 20. A toss-up against Georgia. Put that list back up. Heck, I thought I drank a little this week. Holy smokes, you need a drink. Florida wins 9 this year if lucky.
9 wins would be a really good season in my book.
It would. I would fail the basketball as well. John says he likes the quizzes. Good. All right, you're Sean of the week, Garth.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of good contenders, isn't there?
Last week was really easy because I think last week was the whole perfect game versus no-hitter. I could definitely say the guy at work. I'm trying not to repeat that, though, because that's kind of like the easiest answer. I'm trying to come up with something that hasn't been discussed tonight. I got a good one that Tom won't be a fan of.
Okay.
The New York Mets.
Yes. What about them? In general?
Just in general, but specifically speaking, I could be wrong because I'm definitely following baseball more closely this year, but I'm still not like really, really like super focused in following everything possible. But last I knew, they were something like 18 games back of our Atlanta Braves. And not only that, their Super Bowl of the year, the Home Run Derby, and it pains me to say this because he is a former Florida Gator, Alonso gets absolutely obliterated in the first round of the home run derby. So they didn't even have that to celebrate. It's a bad, in the words of Nick D, it is a bad time to be a New York Mets fan.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I said on my Facebook page, Pete Alonso lost his World Series by getting humiliated in the home run derby. Now, I will say this, in fairness to him, Julio Rodriguez did break a record by hitting 41 home runs. That said, he wasn't even close. It was absolutely embarrassing. Even the Mets can't do anything right in the All-Star game festivities. I mean, they're just an absolute joke, obviously. But, yep, I agree. Losing 5 of the last 6 on that list, man. John does not like Florida.
Whoa. Hold on. Put that list back up real quick.
Where'd it go?
Okay, Georgia, absolutely. We could lose that game. Arkansas at home. A toss-up. I slightly lean towards us because we are at home in that one. At LSU, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost that because I do think they're going to be really good again this year, and it's on the road. But the one good thing is it feels like that's one of those rivalry games where it's always close regardless of each team's records.
Mm-hmm.
At Missouri, I could definitely see us winning that. I don't think Missouri is going to be very good this year. Florida State, really, really good team. But again, this is a rivalry series where records absolutely get thrown out the window, and it is in the swamp. So we could definitely pull that one off as well. So I don't think you can 100% say, hey, they're going to lose 5 or 6 of those. I think you could say they should win at least 2, and you could make the case that they win 3, maybe 4.
Tom says, oh, hang on, let me remove this. Tom says, bro, I'm dying right now with Sykes' comment. Yeah, he went on your Gators. I honestly love it. What's your go-to drink, John? He says, anything really. I'm a liquor kind of guy. Sean of the week, here is the Mets. Oh, my God. With that being said, go Braves. Yes, sir. Won 9-0 today as well. First game back and absolutely boat race the Chicago White Sox. Mets were actually losing last I saw, which doesn't surprise anybody, honestly. Liquor over beer. I do like the lower calorie seltzers, though. Only game you're winning is Miz. Of course, bashing the Mets, and I go check the score. They just lost 6-0 on Apple TV. Absolutely love it. I love watching the Mets. This is, okay, not a baseball show, right? But real quick before we do end this for night, because this has been a very long show, I just love watching every little bit of hope and optimism that Mets fans have just absolutely crash before their eyes, and they're just miserable all the time and complaining about everything, and they just have no hope, and it keeps getting worse. And you know what? I absolutely love it. It makes me so happy. And
So,
yes, the Mets do live rent-free in my head like the Florida Gators, but it is what it is, man.
So there's one thing that I want to remind you. I wish we could
Yes.
boat race the Phillies a little bit more. I don't know what it is, but those bastards refuse to not play us tough. One thing I want to say, Noah, about the Mets in particular, I remember last year, me, you, and I believe maybe Mike Bradley or Mike Aldridge, somebody, we got into an argument on a particular Mets fans post. No, it's not Thomas Scavetta,
Yes,
because
I know
he's a very level-headed Mets fan.
Yes.
But we told this person that our Atlanta Braves were red hot on the heels of the New York Mets for the division lead, and he said, red hot, yeah, right, you're not even close. We're winning the division. Rah, 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 Mets are the best. We're going to win it all that kind of nonsense out of him. What happens? The Braves go on to win the division, and the Mets have been an absolute dumpster fire and somehow continue to get worse and worse as time goes on since that point in time.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Tom says, here we go. MLB Coach of the Year, Arizona Orioles. Brian Snitker. Easy. Neither.
Yeah, I think so too. I would like to see Cash win it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
They're a bunch of little league overpaid underperformers. No reason to invest your time or finances in this team. Might as well call them the Little Yankees. And with that, that has been another episode of Sweet Tea.
Oh my God, Noah.
Yes.
One last thing, guys.
Yes.
Last minute honorable mention, Sean of the week. And It's actually a guy who made it last week with the perfect game versus no hitter. Our good body, and I love you, man. I'm trying not to do this to you, but you keep giving me the opportunity to do it. Josh Burdox, as I like to call him, Burdick, yesterday or earlier today, even maybe, was going on a rant. He's a diehard Boston Red Sox fan. He hates the Yankees with every fiber of his being. was going on a rant about how much the New York Yankees were a joke. They sucked. They can't do anything. They don't have any.
I know what you're going to say.
And then Noah comments back at him, hey, man, just so you know, the Yankees are like 4.5 games ahead of the Red Sox right now. And he was left speechless.
I don't even think he replied. Yeah, that was a good one. I got him with that one. I don't even like the Yankees, but I'm like, if you're going to hate it on a team, at least be above them in the friggin' division. Like, that'd be like if I was a Nationals fan and I was saying, man, the Mets suck. But then my team has been, like, terrible for the last 5 years. Like, it just doesn't work as well. But, yeah, great show. Oh, my God. You guys absolutely – this has been one of the most active shows we have had in a very long time. You guys have killed it. Thank you so much. Leaving likes and comments, sharing the show. Just absolutely killed it tonight. So absolute banger of a show. And you know what? We're going to have more prediction shows coming thick and fast. Next week, we'll be back with the Pac-12 with Andrew as a guest, actually. So that'll be a good one. Pac-12 prediction show next. And we got 2 more coming after that, I believe. Maybe 3 more. We'll see if we could try and do 1 for each Power 5 conference. Time restraints are tough, obviously. Still say fuck the Dodgers. I agree with you on that one.
Yep, I can get behind that sentiment.
Garth, any closing comments before we wrap it up here for the night?
Just a huge thank you, obviously, to everybody that tuned in. Like I say, each and every week, both here on the Sweet Tea Show and over on our hockey podcast on Review and Preview Sports Network, Pucking Around. You guys make the show way, way more fun and enjoyable than it would be if it were just me and Noah here talking to each other with no interaction from you guys. So we really, really appreciate it when you guys tune in and blow up the comment section like you guys did tonight. Even though you seem to not be rooting for my Florida Gators whatsoever, John, it was really cool that you were in here blowing up the comments. Our good buddy Tom, the resident Notre Dame fan, was in here as well. Andrew, everybody else that tuned in. And then other than that, Noah, just be tuned, guys, because these next few weeks should be absolutely amazing. We've got some guests lined up that I'm really excited for. Andrew with the Pac-12 show next week. Our good buddy Garrett Claremont, the resident Ohio State fan that we're going to try to give hell to as much as possible because neither one of us are huge Ohio State Buckeyes fans, but we still love him nonetheless, for the Big Ten show. And the one and only Dr. College Football himself for what should be probably our best prediction show ever, the SEC prediction show. Make sure you guys don't miss that one, and just really looking forward to these next few weeks as we continue to ramp it up. Now, college football is right around the corner. I actually said it to my coworker today, who's a big Miami Hurricanes fan. We are exactly 5 weeks away from week 0 college football, and 6 weeks from the actual inaugural week 1 kickoff. So really excited.
Can't wait. Brian McCardle, he'd be great for the Big 12. He's a UCF fan.
We actually did mention that we would love to get him on for the Big 12 show, as the newest addition UCF is there in the Big 12.
44 days, Andrew says. And we're looking forward to it. And we're not stopping, man. Consistent shows. We're doing this better than we ever have before, more consistently, hopefully. Best production value we've ever done, and more fired up than we have ever been. And you guys are killing it as well. So make sure to tune in next Friday, probably around 8 p.m. once again, for the next prediction show for the Pac-12. But until then, from myself, Noah Dog Diabler, and my co-host and good buddy, Gar Charger Patrick, this has been another episode of the Sweet Tea Show here on the Sports Box. We'll be back next week, but until then, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sweet Tea on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.